her than sleep, but a Blahnik shoe sale was definitely one of them. Suddenly, propping herself up on one elbow, she asked, "Is this the first day?" Like every other savvy New York shopper, she knew the second day of a Blahnik shoe sale would yield nothing but an assortment of size 6 and 10 leftovers. "Not only is this the first day, but it hasn't even been announced to the public yet," Joy one-upped. "But I found out last night from one of my shoe-obsessed model friends." She could hear the stirring of Brooke's bed linen in the background. She smiled slyly at Brooke's predictability. "Where is it?" By now, she was sitting on the side of her bed, searching in the dark for her pink bunny house slippers. If she could make it there by 8 o'clock, she could do a quick round of power shopping and still make it to her office in time for her 9 o'clock appointment. Joy told her an address on Broadway, between 41st and 42nd. "I'll meet you in the lobby at 8, Joy said, and hung up the phone. Brooke yawned away the remnants of her night's sleep and stretched her lithe 5'8" frame before shuffling into the slippers that sat parked at the foot of her bed. As she reached for her cashmere bathrobe, she was wide awake, with visions of sexy slingbacks prancing around in her head. She headed down the hall into the kitchen, where she filled up her Italian stovetop coffee brewer with a healthy dose of Italian espresso. While the aroma from the hot brew filled the air, she wandered to the front door of her ground-floor apartment to retrieve the newspaper from the stoop. It bore the usual slew of depressing headlines. "Instability in the Middle East causes global concerns. Charges of bribery smear city election. Crime stats reach a 10-year high." No wonder there was no shortage of neurotic patients for her thriving practice. Deciding not to taint what was starting out to be a promising Friday, she tossed the paper onto the antique roll-top desk that sat in her foyer and headed back to the kitchen for a hit of Java. After her caffeine fix, Brooke quickly showered and fell into her morning routine. She dressed in one of her understated designer suits, brushed her thick, dark hair back into a ball at the nape of her neck, and applied a hint of makeup to her buttery caramel complexion. Her look was classy but casually elegant. She was a head-turner, but she was completely oblivious to her stunning good looks. This blind spot was one of the less visible scars from a disastrous and abusive marriage, followed by a string of Mr. Wrongs. Though therapy had healed many of her emotional wounds, others seemed destined to remain raw. She found it cruelly ironic that she could so aptly analyze other people's problems, but was totally incapable of doing anything about her own. What she wouldn't do to be able to trust a man enough to fall in love, or in lust, for that matter. She grabbed her briefcase and headed west on 61st, grabbing a taxi the minute she hit Park Avenue, which she took as a good omen for the rest of the day. 10 minutes later, she was hurrying into the building, where Joy stood, waving to get her attention. "We don't have much time," Joy said. She consulted her watch like a drill sergeant prepping for a strategic battle. "I know, I've got to be at the office before 9, Brooke agreed, feeling like a fellow commander preparing for the battlefield. Joy had her dreads piled high on top of her head, and long crystal chandelier earrings dangled from her ears. She was in perpetual motion, with her hands gesturing and eyelashes batting. "We need a game plan," she surmised once they stepped off the elevator onto the showroom floor. "Why don't you start at one end of the floor, and I'll take the other. If you see any size 9s with potential, you grab 'em, and I'll do the same for 8s. Once we meet in the middle, we'll go through the bounty and divvy it up. That way we'll see everything in half the time." This was serious business for Joy, an admitted shoe whore. Brooke was more of an equal opportunity spender, although shoes definitely ranked high on her list of material indulgences. Being a therapist,